Welcome to Blood Bowl 2 Legendary Edition. This is a French-developed PC adaptation of a British tabletop game inspired by American football. I am playing the Amazons in the Open Ladder 9, which was recently concluded. I played 15 matches in the campaign. I thought I'd do a review of my campaign. Maybe it would be used to somebody. These are the Amazon players. What they lack in protective armor, they compensate with colorful feathers. They are a very unusual team, I would say. They are dominant in some scenarios and absolutely vulnerable to being destroyed in others. I played the Ogres in my first match. I was pretty heartened by this matchup because I thought I could get a good result out of it. The Ogres are sort of a frustrating team. They are not very competitive. I think the players who usually choose them are motivated primarily by a sense of fun rather than any optimistic reason that they are going to succeed. They are a very frustrating team. Before we start the match itself, let's go through the Amazon team. They're kind of unique in that every single Amazon player shares identical stats: 6337, average movement, average strength, average agility, and below average armor. This is the main problem with the Amazons. Whenever an AV7 player gets knocked down, there's a 17% chance that player is removed from the pitch. By remove from the pitch, that could mean a KO, in which case the player has a 50% chance of returning to action in the next drive. It could be an injury, in which case the player is unavailable for the remainder of the match and might be missing from the next match as well. Or it could be a death, in which case the player has taken a permanent vacation from life. So that is one problem with the Amazon, the primary problem, I would say. So why wouldn't anyone want to play the Amazons, given that there's a 1 in 6, about 1 in 6 chance of them being removed from the pitch when they are knocked down? Well, to compensate for their fragility, they have universal dodge. Every single Amazon player comes with dodge as standard, and to understand why dodge is so important, you have to look at the dodge scale itself. It comes in handy in two scenarios. One is when the player is dodging away from a marker or dodging away from a tackle zone. A player with a dodge skill can reroll a failed dodge attempt. In the Amazon's case, they have agility 3, which means they have a base 67% chance of dodging into a free square, and that goes up to 89% with the dodge skill. The second reason why dodge is kind of important is because it turns the defender's stumbles result into pushback. So taken in combination, it's hard to knock the Amazons down. It is hard to mark them as well. But remember, when they are knocked down, they have a 1 in 6 chance of being removed from the pitch. So this is my team setup. I chose to take 12 players for my first match. 4 blitzers. I cannot envision a scenario in which you don't take all 4 blitzers, because they give you a significant advantage over other teams at the TV 1000 level. The blitzers come with both block and dodge, which means it is very hard to knock them down. With a 2-die block, there's only about a 31% chance of knocking them down. With a reroll, that goes up to about 52%. It is very hard to knock them down. So you want all 4 blitzers at the outset, and ideally you want to build most of your team around either block and dodge or wrestle and dodge, to compensate for the fact that they have fragile or weaker armor. I chose to take 12 players because, again, we are going to suffer a lot of injuries. We're going to suffer a lot of chaos. Typically, what you're going to see is you're going to suffer 2 or 3 injuries per match, and you're going to suffer 2 or 3 or maybe 3 or 4 KOs per half. So it's going to be hard for the Amazon coach to have all 11 players in a drive for the duration of it. So this was my setup. I chose to receive in my first match. I was hoping to score as quickly as possible to put pressure on the Ogres. The Ogres here, the Ogre coach here has taken a very unusual build. He opted to take 6 Ogres and 5 Noblars for the 6 Noblas altogether. This is unusual because it leaves him with 0 rerolls. 0 rerolls means he cannot use a reroll to reroll the bonehead result. Bonehead, there's a 1 in 6 chance of the ogre going bonehead, and when the ogre goes bonehead, he loses all his tackle zone and simply stands there scratching his head. So my game plan here was to force the opponent into making as many dice rolls with the ogres as possible. But the danger was the ogres come with Mighty Blow. Mighty Blow against AV7. Well, the results aren't always going to be pretty. Again, the Amazons have dodge. I was hoping that I would dodge away from the ogres and try to limit them to 1 blitz to limit the damage. But the problem here is whenever you make a dodge with the Amazons, there's a 1 in 9 chance of failing. 1 in 9 chance of failing the dodge and 1 in 6 chance of getting removed from the pitch when you get knocked down. Taken in combination, every time you try a dodge, there's a 1 in 54 chance you're going to be removed from the pitch. Kind of slim, but it can happen. So anyway, we'll unpause the game. The ogre coach is setting himself up. He puts 3 ogres on the line of scrimmage. Very intimidating, all strength 5. He tries to protect the Noblas. The Noblas only have strength 1, but it's kind of hard to knock them down because they have dodge as well. And on top of that, they also have sidestep. However, because they have Tichy and Stunty, when you whack them, they break very easily. So this was my setup. I put a minimum number of players on the line of scrimmage. My thinking was I'm not going to win the blocking game. I think it's going to be hard to knock down the ogres because of the strength 5. I do not have any guard right now. That was one of my first priorities for this team. My goal for this match was try to level up my blitzers as quickly as possible. That means giving them the ball and scoring a touchdown. So let's see what happens. Here's the kickoff. Hoping for a pretty good kickoff event. It's a quick snap, so we get to move one adjacent square. I moved the the thrower closer to where the ball was supposed to land. The ball was supposed to land over here. So my thought was I'm going to gamble that this is going to be a throwback. I'm hoping that the ball drops here, bounces out of the pitch, and then we get a throwback. I get to choose who I give the ball to. There was no danger of the ogres or the Noblas racing forward. And sure enough, the ball goes out of bounds. It's a touchback, and now this was the first mistake I made in my campaign. I gave the ball to my thrower. The thrower has pass and the thrower has dodge. The thrower does not have block. Because it is so hard to knock the blitzers down, I think it would have been smarter to give one of the blitzers the ball, because the ogre team would have a lot of trouble knocking her down. So this was the first mistake, and it would be punished soon enough. Let's unpause the game. See what my first moves are in my first turn of my first game. I move one of the linewomen forward. My thinking was I'm going to pressure the backfield, put pressure on the Noblas. I was thinking here, try to remove as many of the Noblas as possible, and once I've done that, it is very hard for the ogres to win the match. They have agility 2, so it is not unusual, not unheard of for them to pick up the ball, especially if they have a reroll. But again, my opponent went with a 0 reroll build. 2 types of coaches go with that type of build, I think. One is very experienced coaches, and another type of coach that chooses a 0 reroll build is someone who's seen an experienced coach play and decided they could do the same. It usually backfires spectacularly. Let's see which type of coach this is. I'm forming a cage here and putting one of my blitzers in the corner here, which was I think, decent move. It is going to be hard to knock them down. Any attempts to knock them down is usually going to result in a pushback. Made a loose screen here. So I've got 3 players in the backfield. the Ogre coach decides to mark the Amazons, which is kind of futile because at this stage of the campaign, most teams lack the one skill that an Amazon coach will fear, and that is tackle. Tackle negates dodge, and without dodge, the Amazons are a very mediocre team. Unfortunately for the Amazons, two teams start out with a lot of tackle. That is, of course, the short-bearded drunkards, the dwarves, and their chaotic cousins, the chaos dwarves. Whenever a chaos dwarf or dwarf team meets the Amazons, the results are usually quite ugly. I've not actually played against the dwarves or the chaos dwarves as an Amazon coach, but I have been against the Amazons as a chaos dwarf team. It was pretty brutal for the Amazon coach. So again, this was turn 2. My thinking was I'm going to try to punch through over here because there's a lot of empty space here, but it's going to be hard. Didn't do myself any favors here because of my positioning here. It was pretty poor. There was not much of a gap here. I could have attempted to dodge this side, but again, there's a 1 in 9 chance of failing the dodge attempt. I moved the thrower here right next to the ogre. Seemed like a smart move. Knocked the ogre down with my blitzer. Pretty safe a block there. And decided to mark the ogre to make it hard for the ogre to make a 2-die block. But this was a major mistake. That was the first failed dodge attempt. Luckily, it didn't result in a pitch removal. So I given the ogre coach an opportunity to have a 2-die block against my thrower. He moves another ogre here to nullify the markers here and gets a 2-die block, and it's of course a defender down. And this is the first Amazon injury. So the thing here is, whenever your Amazons are injured, and they will be injured frequently in matches, expect to have 2 injuries per match. So whenever you suffer an injury, there's always a question of whether do you want to use an apothecary for your player. If it's a vital player, and in the first match the only vital players I would say are the blitzers, because they give you a significant advantage. I bought an apothecary for my first match because again, my thinking was I'm going to save the apothecary for the blitzers. So this was a shame. First injury, and the thrower was going to miss the next game, but I chose to ignore it. And for some strange reason, the ogre coach decides to dodge with the ogre here. Only agility 2 and no rerolls. So this was a very optimistic move, or it was a mistake. I attempt to pick up the ball with the line woman, succeed with a reroll. I have 3 rerolls, which I think about standard for Amazon coaches. I think 3 rerolls. You can opt to get 4 for your first match, but maybe you don't need it because of dodge. It should be the reroll should be reserved for pickups, I think, and maybe blocks. So once again, try to protect the ball carrier. Once again, maybe I should have given the ball to a blitzer. My primary goal again was to level up my blitzers. And this was the first injury caused by one of my blitzers. 2 SPP. She gains the first SPP for this team. Another failed dodge attempt. This one again does not result in an injury. So let's see what the ogre coach is about to do here. Picks his ogres up. So far he hasn't suffered any boneheads. He moves to mark my players. And that's the first bonehead of the match. I was hoping for a few more in order to have space to punch through. turn over. The ogres unfortunately do not have any block skills. So there was a 1 in chance of failure. Even with this was a 1 in 27. Skull, both down. So you could understand it if the ogre coach was feeling a little bit frustrated at this point. But again, with a 0 reroll build, it's hard to feel too sympathetic. Trying to make my way forward to the touchdown, or the end zone rather. And that is another failed dodge. Roll a 2 plus 1 and then a 1. This gives the ogre coach an opportunity to pressure the cage. Unfortunately, this guy decides to go bonehand with the blitz, and the blitz is squandered. Ogre coach is preventing these two players from moving. Suffers another bonehead, unfortunately for him and fortunately for me. So there's a place to punch through over here or punch through over here. I need to do something about this guy here. I choose to ignore the ogre and opt instead to smack the Nobbler, who is stunned. Now I can move the ball carrier safely forward. I do have to make a couple of dodges here to safely screen the ball carrier. First dodge attempt is flawless. Thanks to the bonehead, this line woman is able to move forward safely. And I suffer turnover there. I think that was a 1 in 9. Yep. Both down and a skull. Another bonehead, which means this player is now free. Oops. And that's the first KO of the match for the Amazons. One of my blitzers is going to be unavailable for the duration of the drive. The ogre coach doesn't have much in the way of resources to stop the touchdown. Suffers another bonehead. And this is pretty much a major risk here. 2 GM5s, rolled 6s for both. This ogre regains his senses, decides to mark these players for some reason. So my thinking was I was going to blitz this Nobbler, at which point this ball carrier would have the opportunity to score a touchdown. However, if you take a look at the turn counter, it's turn 6. And the question was, do I want to give the ogre coach a chance to score a 1-turn touchdown with his throw teammate plays? Again, the ogre coach does not have any rerolls. So it was a high risk, high reward maneuver. But my thinking was, I'm going to have to stall here. I blitz with the blitzer, get a 3-die block, knock him down, and it's a KO. Okay, at this point, again, my thinking here is I'm going to stall one more turn. Kinda dangerous because if you take a look here, one ogre here, and one over here. This was a risky play, I think. I only had one reroll left, but I do have 2 turns after this. Let's see what happens. So here I'm trying to prevent these ogres from assisting. Get a 2-die block against the ogre with the blitzer, which is kind of safe. Knock him down, reduce his movement, and move to screen the ball carrier. GFI's here was to mark this ogre. Dodge away successfully, and maybe I should have moved forward a little. So let's see what the ogre does to prevent the touchdown here. Moves one Noblar here is not going to be much of an impediment. Here comes a blitz. It's a pushback because of the dodge skill. Moves right next to the ball carrier. And fortunately this guy goes bonehead. So I think the ogre coach is out of options at this point. See what this guy does. He moves forward, and with the GFI moves next to the line woman here. So not as comfortable as I would like right now. So turn 7, what are my options here? Could I attempt to blitz this guy here, push him away, at which point my line woman would have a free run to the touchdown, or for the touchdown rather. But I opted instead to hand the ball to my blitzer. My thinking was I need to level up my blitzers as quickly as possible. They give me the key advantage at the early stages of the campaign over the other teams because the other teams do not have a lot of tackle, well aside from the dwarves and the chaos dwarves. So the sooner I get my blitzers SPP, the sooner I can level them up and give them skills like guard, like mighty blow maybe, and tackle. So that was going to be the play, simple handoff. It succeeds, and now I'm going to blitz with the blitzer. It's a 3-die block. A push suffice. And that is the first touchdown for the Amazons. We take 1-0, I get 3 SPP for my blitzer, which I'm really happy about. So far things are going very well for us. Kinda disappointed in the 1 injury. And this KO blitzer doesn't recover. The ogre team has only 1 KO player, so he would have a full squad, or rather a full team of 11 for the next 2 turns. So I move my players back. So again, at this point I'm kind of worried because the ogre coach might decide to try a pass, throw teammate play here. One Noblar picks up the ball, hands it off to another Noblar who moves forward, and then the ogre coach decides to throw the Noblar somewhere around here. Did not have any way of preventing it. My only hope was because the ogre coach has 0 rerolls, maybe he would suffer a turnover when he failed to throw his teammate. Look at this formidable front line here. One of the scariest front lines in Blood Bowl. Let's see what the kickoff event is going to be. High kick. Noblar manages to catch the ball without any problems. And now the paint train. First one is a push. Second one is also a push. So this is where the Amazon's dodge skill comes in very useful. It turns a defender stumbles into a pushback. It's going to be very frustrating for coaches at the TV 1000 level if they do not have tackle. Another pushback. So let's see what happens here. It's a 1 in 9, and the Ogre coach was very frustrated at this point. And it was a concession, which happens a lot at or in the open ladder. I think someone suggested as much as 50% of matches in the open ladder result in a concession. In my own limited experience, it's been about 30%, 40% around there. It is kind of frustrating, even though you get double the MVPs, even though you get double the match winnings, because during a concession you don't get the opportunity to develop specific players. My goal for the first match was to level up my blitzers, and I did get 3 SVP for my blitzer, but this MVP awards went to Line Woman, which is not too bad. It gives me an opportunity to level them up in future matches. One pass would give them 1 SVP, it would give them a level up, at which point I could give them either block or wrestle. I think wrestle is more useful to them on the line of scrimmage. It also helps when you're trying to sack a ball carrier who has the block skill. So that was the first match for the Amazons in their campaign in the Open Ladder 9. A 2-0 victory after a concession. We did manage to score 1 touchdown. We get another touchdown free because of the concession. 5 armor breaks. I think that was caused. So if you take a look at the stats here, 13 blocks succeeded, 1 KO inflicted, 1 injury inflicted, 11 blocks sustained, 1 KO sustained, 1 casualty sustained. Now this, remember, this is in the first half. We didn't even make it to half time, so we already suffered 1 casualty and 1 KO. In terms of SVP, the 2 line women got MVP awards. The blitzer got touchdown, and this blitzer inflicted an injury on the Nobla. In terms of dice rolls, the most interesting one would be the dodge attempts. Only succeeded 46% of the time, which is kind of unusual. We roll a lot more ones than we did sixes. Also another cause for concern. In terms of blocks, I think we did alright, scored a lot of defender downs. Then skulls for my opponent. In terms of block dice, yeah, a lot of skulls as well. It's kind of frustrating for the Ogre coach, I think. A lot more sixes than ones. 83%, which is about standard, I think. 1 in 6. I think the Ogre coach actually deleted his team after this match. But I think that's the problem with the Ogres. You get what you paid for. So that was the first team, or rather that was the first match for the Amazon team. I will see you next time.